Hello everyone, welcome to Deaf Mute Studio. In this video I am going to be reviewing 1997 Stephen King adaptation of The Night Flier. Let's have it. So The Night Flier is Mark Pavier's directorial debut. Don't worry, I've never heard of him either. Starring the late great Miguel Ferrer, R.I.P, and Julie Entwistle. Don't worry, I've never heard of her either. Random fact for you before I start. Miguel Ferrer is George Clooney's cousin, or should I say was. I only found that out when I was writing this review. Speaking of which, so Richard Dees, played by Miguel Ferrer, R.I.P, is a nasty and bitter senior reporter from sensationalist tabloid Inside View. When a mysterious man who goes by the name of Dwight Renfield flies his aircraft to rural airports and kills at random from airport to airport. Richard's boss invites him to cover the story. He flies to each place in his plane and realises that Dwight Renfield might be a vampire and calls him the Night Flier. Catherine, played by Julie Entwistle, is a young rookie from Inside View, follows Richard to give a different view of the same story. When Richard finally locates the Night Flier, he finds that he's bitten off more than he can chew. Apologies for the terrible pun. The Night Flier is an adaptation of a Stephen King story. Now at first glance that should be a stamp of approval. A guarantee that you're going to shit yourself at some point or be generally unnerved. Unfortunately, the ratio of good Stephen King adaptations to bad is more in the favour of bad, generally speaking. So when you come across The Night Flier that was released straight to DVD/home video in the UK, you'd think it'd be a safe bet to class it as one of the bad adaptations. So going off of that logic, it's not as bad as you'd think. So straight off the bat, it's clear that this film is critiquing tabloid journalism, with the tabloid in question, Inside View, dealing with the worst and most shocking headlines they can get. Our first introduction to the main character, Dees, is him angrily asking why the picture of the dead baby that he took isn't on the front page. So with an introduction like that, you can see that the film really doesn't believe in subtlety. And this runs through the entire film, particularly the script. Nothing is ever hinted at with a flourish of theatrical flair. Try saying that 3 times fast. It's always straight to the point, almost as if Richard Dees himself directed the film. But it's that hitting the nail on the head mentality that I found strangely endearing about the film. And in the case of Miguel Ferrer's performance as Richard Dees, it's downright enjoyable to watch. Now Miguel Ferrer made a very good living from playing, shall we say, the biggest tool in the shed in films like RoboCop and Twin Peaks. But it's very rare to see him in a leading role, and I for one am extremely thankful that he is playing the lead in this film. Ferrer brings his best gob shittery and shithousery to the table, and it's incredible to watch. The character of Dees is one-dimensional, and he's probably the most unlikable protagonist you'll ever see. But Ferrer plays it so well, you don't want him to be likeable. If anything, you want him to be bitten by a radioactive soul and become a supervillain called Man. Just because deep down inside you know no one on this planet can play Man as well as Ferrer. Although very enjoyable to watch, the state of the protagonist in The Night Flier is a strange one. Clearly Dees is no hero. No one in the right mind could claim that a guy that interferes with crime scenes, vandalising gravestones, and photographs the unfortunate for their own selfish means could actually be a hero. And the film never gives him that typical hero story arc either. He is what he is, and he doesn't evolve as a person on his journey. In some ways, he's just as evil as Dwight Renfield. Although you could say that Dwight Renfield is killing out of necessity, and in his own moral compass, he's just doing what he can to stay alive. Whereas Dees is doing all this just because he gets off on it. In a twisted sense, you could say that the film revolves around the villain of the story and not the hero. Which brings me to the Night Flier himself, Dwight Renfield. There's a moment in the final act where Dees finally catches up with Dwight, and he stumbles across Dwight's plane and has a look inside. There's blood everywhere, soil and bones in the back, nothing really out of place for what you'd expect a vampire to have. But Dees comes across this old, well-kept photo album with pictures of what I assume is Dwight and his family. Now, it's that tiny, intriguing inclusion that I think adds an extra layer to Dwight, or an extra layer of mystery, which raises the film up a few pegs, because that small inclusion has given Dwight that that little bit of depth that we, the audience, can't help ourselves but create our own little backstories too. And it's those small details that get me hooked into a film and the universe it's set in. I mentioned before that the film isn't very subtle or theatrical. Well, that is the case, with the exception of the character Dwight. We're never given a full clear shot of him, well, up until the very end. So every time you see him walking in the background or in the shadows, you find yourself squinting or leaning forward to get a closer look. The film gives him this brilliant aura of mystery. And just like Dees, you find yourself desperate to know more. So, in conclusion, for a film that's an hour and 34 minutes long, it feels dragged out and spread thin. You can tell that the film is adapted from a short story and that the writers are struggling to fill the gaps. Although I found Dwight Renfield to be an interesting character, no one else really is. And without Miguel Ferrer strutting around with that big energy, the film would be dull as dishwater. It's not the best Stephen King adaptation, but it's certainly not the worst. It's not a great film, it's not even a good film, but Miguel Ferrer saves the day. R.I.P. So that's my review of 1997's The Night Flyer. Do you enjoy the film? What do you think? Do you agree with my review? Let me know what you think on social media and the comments below. Please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel, it will help me out massively. But most importantly, thanks for watching. Ta-ra.